Mavericks work it out to Rossi. High slot. Circle right. Mavericks work it back. Right side and they score! Sam Morton takes the last beat. Tic-tac-toe. He'll shoot from the right side. Power play goal for the Mavericks. 10:36. And it's a big 2-0 lead right now.
From BLC Studios in Mankato, Minnesota, this is the Maverick Hockey Live Podcast, presented by Duncan. With your host, Shane Frederick.
This is the Maverick Hockey Live Podcast, presented by Duncan. Hope you're doing all right today. My name is Shane Frederick. I'm the host, and I'm joined today by Minnesota State super senior defenseman Andy Carroll. How you doing today, Andy?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. Congratulations to the start you guys are on. You got to be feeling pretty good 4 games in, being 3-1 with some pretty big wins at home against Minnesota, and then the big sweep last weekend against Minnesota Duluth. How are you guys feeling right now?
Yeah, I think that first Friday night up in Mariucci was a good eye opener for us, and it was a good reset for us, I think, in a way. Came back and found a way to win 3 straight against obviously very high quality hockey teams. Can't speak highly enough of the atmosphere at the Mayo this weekend. It was phenomenal. I think I heard Saturday was over 5,000. So to be able to play in front of that crowd in the back-to-back days that we did it was truly special, and obviously another big weekend ahead. So we're looking forward and preparing the right way.
When you said reset on the first game of the season, it seems weird that you say that, but are you referring to maybe a little reset from like transitioning from last year to this year and kind of being a new team, and it's almost like hit the pause button and say, okay, it's 22-23 now, not 21-22?
100%. That's exactly what I mean. You make it to a national championship game, right? And it's very easy to become complacent and just assume that all those things are going to happen again. Unfortunately, we had to find out the hard way that that's not the case. But we got it back on the right track, and I think we got 28 guys in that locker room that are all in the understanding that that's not the case, and the work needs to be put in every day and prepare the right way, and then obviously play the right way. But it's a different team, a different from top to bottom. We're obviously very, very different from last year, and but obviously we're excited about the club that we have, and I think this past weekend was a big step for us in creating this year's identity. It's going to be a little bit different than last year, but it's okay.
This past weekend, you had to win games 2 different ways, and really, I think, had the challenge of having Friday's game where it was such a one-sided game in your favor to win 6-0 and to really, feel like you're the dominant team, and then going into the next night, which was a game I think everybody, or at least myself, really expected between Minnesota State and Minnesota Duluth, a 2-1 grinder, a lot of hard ice, shots were low, shots were even. It seems like that's a difficult thing to do to, you mentioned complacency. It's one to go from a game like Friday into Saturday and be prepared enough to know that while you would love to get off to the same kind of start that you had Friday, that might not happen. And you're going to be in a dogfight, and when they made it 2-1 with about 14 minutes left in the third period, I think, was it on Saturday, or was
I think it might have been a little bit later, but yeah, regardless, we hung in there.
Yeah, and you had to grind it out the rest of the way. So, what was that? What's it like to kind of do that on a weekend and go from one game to another where those games are just not alike at all?
Yeah, obviously Friday night. Great start. To be up 3-0 after the first is something that's a goal. But against a team like that, against Duluth, usually not the case, right? 2 programs that identify themselves as just being absolute stalwarts defensively, and that leads to offense. And obviously we got off to a little bit of a hot start and kind of carried that throughout and just didn't really let any breathing room. But we were all well aware probably 5 minutes after the game Friday night, that Saturday was going to be a different ball game, and Duluth was going to come out ready, and they were. It was, what were shots? 17, 18, 17.
Yeah, something right around
there,
that.
There was a stretch where I remember I looked up like late in the game, and I was like, man, we had more shots last night through like 2.5 periods than like either team has combined through almost three. Almost gave me reminiscent vibes to that game against Notre Dame to go on. Just a lot of neutral zone play, not a lot of sustained pressure in either end. Special teams came up big, and we found a way. So yeah, it's definitely like you said, the tale of two nights was drastically different. And I don't think, the guys who are in the lineup walked off that rink like, obviously a win's a win. Like we're winning in college hockey is never easy. But I think we all walked off that rink knowing we didn't probably have our A game that night, and we still found a way, which I think for our identity as a team is going to be huge moving forward. Knowing that we can be a team who finds ways to win games even when, maybe we're not clicking on every cylinder. So,
it's interesting you say that about, the neutral zone play and all that. When you have a crowd of 5,000 people and there's a game like that, and if you're in Minnesota Duluth, other than the fact that you're down 2-0, you probably like the fact that you're trying to, taking the crowd out of the game a little bit, or you're attempting at least to take the crowd out of the game. And I've said this before, to other players and to coaches on the podcast, just watching the level of interest and understanding of hockey by the crowd has been a really fun thing to see in Mankato over the years. When you see a game like that where the crowd could be kind of sitting on their hands, kind of waiting for something to happen, but then really explodes when you kill off a penalty, for instance, or when you ice the puck a few times on a penalty kill, and they kind of get into it and get the crowd on your side, and suddenly they're realizing there are other things than goals to cheer for and be excited about. And to me, that's a lot of fun to kind of see that nuance in the game. And I don't know if you noticed that, but I'm sure you get some energy from that, when you guys are killing penalties.
I literally have the chills right now as you say that. For all of our fans, student section listening to this, Saturday night against the Gophers, second period, tie. I don't recall the exact score, but we go 5-on-3, right? And we get it off, and I think at that time we were still down.
I think maybe 1-0.
I think we were down 1-0. We get a huge 5-on-3 kill. The place erupts. I want to say 2 shifts later, Campbell Psychos walks the blue line, goal. That place erupts again. But the noise in that place when we killed it off might have been equivalent to when we scored. Come this weekend, first game, we take a penalty early, right? Andre Pavel, an absolute workhorse on the back end wall, behind their net, probably held the puck on that back wall for 30 seconds. And I'm standing out there with my D partner who we were killing, and Lucas Sauter was out there with us, and we're just kind of looking around like, do we because they have 5 guys almost below the goal line trying to get the puck from him. And
he had 3 guys on his back.
He's got 3 guys on his back, and he's just playing with it along the wall. And we're like, do we go in and help a little bit? Do we back off? I was like, and then the crowd started going. And it's like, that's the stuff where as a player, we know how much that means. He's coming back to the bench after that shift, and every guy on that bench is picking him up saying, hey, phenomenal job. You got that kill for us, big time, whatever. But to see then the crowd have that hockey IQ and be able to pick up on it and churn, that stuff as players, where obviously we're going to get bench energy from Pavi doing that alone.
Right.
But then to have our own home crowd generate that and then we feed off that is just incredible stuff. And grateful to play in a town that understands that.
That's a great highlight. And, that's one of those ones where you see highlight packages, and I think the CCHA put one out today, which, I'm sure it's mostly goals, possibly a great save here or there. But you want to see plays like that once in a while too, because that's so unique, and it was such a great moment. It reminded me of a moment from I think 20 years ago, Adam Gerlach played for this team, and he, I don't think it was a penalty kill. I think it was a 6-on-5 situation at the end of the game against North Dakota, big crowd. Mavericks were on a 17-game unbeaten streak. I may be combining like 3 or 4 games into one here, but what I remember is Adam Gerlach kind of doing that along the wall, taking on 2 or 3 guys, keeping the puck along the wall, letting time tick away, and really preventing any kind of offensive chance for the team that had the man advantage. And it's you watch guys do that and kind of figure out how to do that and make plays, because however many seconds it was that Pavel did that, you said 30. I kind of guessed 20, because sometimes I think we don't think as much as others. I talked to somebody in this concourse between periods who thought it was 45.
Yeah.
It's going to grow a legend. He's going to, the legend's going to be that he killed off the whole team and minor there.
he came in, he goes, how long was it? I go, if I had to guess, like somewhere between like maybe 20 and 30. So I was giving him the benefit of that. He goes, dude, I felt like it was like 45 seconds down there. So
well, maybe I'll go on to Flow Hockey and check that out and time it out, because it's pretty amazing stuff. Let's talk about you a little bit. One of the unique things about you, Andy, is that you are here for your 5th season. You're taking advantage of your COVID year, or whatever the official designation is, but you are, as they say, a super senior. What went into your decision to come back for one more year? I remember shortly after the Frozen Four talking to Coach Hastings, and I think at the time he wasn't sure if anyone was going to come back. Yeah,
it was a really hard decision. Not in the case of, do I want to come back to this program, but rather, what's the best decision? Because there wasn't a wrong or a bad decision between the 2 options, between turning pro or coming back and utilizing my 5th year. And yeah, I had some long, hard conversations with my advisor, coach, friends and family. And it was difficult. Talked to Jack McNeely, Reggie, guys who had been through it, understand that, graduate school student now, like going through all that. And I think that, the way, obviously I was a county major, like pretty rigorous courses last year, wrapping up school. And between that and competing for a national championship and continuing to be good, practice, workouts, games, etc. And also having some time away from the rink, which is a really important thing for me, there wasn't a lot of time.
Right.
And as much as you wanna and are excited for the future, you also want to stay in the present and be as good as you can daily and not have that stuff creep into your mind and be like, all right, what am I doing? But at the same time, like, I think it, in a way, it almost made that decision harder after the season. But I will say, and I've said it again, a couple days after, obviously the national championship game, it really allowed my gut and my heart to kind of combine and my mind and come up with what my body wanted to do and what my heart wanted to do, and that was compete for one more national championship. Pro hockey is something that I've, as a 12-year-old probably wasn't on my radar as a small town Northfield kid. It was to play college hockey. That was my goal. And a national championship would be just a cherry on top. But now that I'm here and I've had that taste back-to-back years of Frozen Fours, national championships, NCAA tournaments, like, you get a little taste of it and like you just can't, like, it's hard to say, no, I don't want to try and do that again. But it was hard. Obviously pro hockey, like me being one of the 4, or one out of 4, to decide to come back, obviously with Dryden, Wyatt and Julian. And obviously they're doing amazing things in pro hockey. But it just felt like the right decision for me. Take a little bit of a step, refine my game that much more. So when I do, turn pro next year, I'll just be that much more ready.
So you're a graduate student right now?
Correct.
What's your What are you going for?
MBA.
Masters in your MBA.
Yep,
After getting
MBA.
the, accounting degree last year. Did you graduate?
Yep,
Okay.
accounting degree, data analytics minor, and then a sports coaching minor as well.
Wow, that's a grind.
Yeah, you know what? I enjoy numbers. I actually just got done with, so the MBA classes are 8-week classes. So I actually just took my finals last week.
Oh, wow. Okay.
For my courses that I was in the first half of the semester, and one of them was a research and design class, data analytics, and we had some like prep work that was like extra credit at the beginning of the semester. And Mrs. Bregman, if you're listening, I really enjoyed your class, but the first extra credit assignment was like rudimentary, like third grade math.
Okay.
Like 36 plus 45. And I'm like, is this, I mean, if I'm getting my MBA degree, like I'd like to be pushed a little bit. And then like the next weekend we're doing quantum regression analysis. And I'm like, okay, we just went from 0 to 100 in like a snap of a finger. And so an academic advisor up on campus, we were talking a little bit and I was like, man, you should have seen it. Like we went from, adding fractions to doing quantum regression analysis in a matter of like 3.5 days. But it was a really fun class. I love mathematics. I love solving problems. That's just kind of always the way I've been. And yeah, I'm obviously very happy to be back, utilize my 5th year, and also getting my MBA degree.
That's great. Wow, good for you. That's and it takes a lot. You mentioned the grind of the hockey season, and I always think about how long the college hockey season is, and I mean you're obviously starting in the summer, and you're technically able to start start practices when classes start, but the season as far as games go, it's that first weekend in October usually. You've been in school for 5 or 6 weeks. If you make it to the Frozen Four, which you did last year, that's the second weekend in April, and you're done the second week in May. I mean, your time that's your season schedule, game schedule, is all but just a few weeks of the entire school year. I always think hockey is so unique that way compared to even football and basketball and baseball. It's literally your entire year of school.
It is. I have buddies who I've met through my work here, when I work here during the summer, or just through different athletic teams, and a few of them, I got a couple buddies who are golfers, and they have their fall and spring season,
Mm-hmm.
so they have 2 seasons, and I think they have 9 tournaments, so they're playing for 18 days, and I'm like, man, like we're 18 days in, like obviously they're practicing and doing everything like that,
Sure.
And it's spread out again, like they're starting obviously a couple weeks before us. As in in terms of their competition,
Right.
They're starting, I think, late August, maybe early September. So they just wrapped up like 2 weeks ago, and then they'll turn it back around and like still finish kind of when we're finishing,
Mm-hmm.
but they're, they have a 3-month break. So it is just crazy, like how important your 3.5 month summer is to prepare your body, because you can't, if you're not prepared come end of August, it's really hard to play catch up because of the demands of our sport, of hockey, of the length of the season, the way that we play, the way that we practice. If you're not ready, it's very hard to play catch up. So that 3.5 month span, I learned it in a hurry from my going into my freshman year, between that and then between freshman and sophomore, how important that time is, to regain strength, regain power, put on some weight. Because, like you said, I mean, what is our season? It's almost 6-7 months long.
6 months, pretty much, yeah.
So it's a demand on your body, but that's what makes it so fun.
Well, and the other part of that too is the success that this program has had. Means that you'll be going, deep into March, if not into April, and whereas you could, in some teams, they're done the first week of March. Their first round of conference tournament, and if they get knocked out, season's over. And it's you see that in professional sports too. When teams in the NHL, you win the Stanley Cup, you're going deep into June, into the summer, and August and September you're starting up again. So it is interesting to know what. It's kind of the double-edged sword of success, I guess, because it's all great, but the time in between to enjoy that is not very long.
Definitely.
It's interesting. I was, you guys played the Gophers, UMD to some degree. As a person, in media and following social media and seeing comments and things like that take place during during these games. A lot gets said about people start looking at the average ages of teams. I'm sure you've heard this before, and I see you close your eyes because you know where I'm going with this. You're going to be 26 years old in February. I'm a real proponent of teams doing whatever they can do within the rules of the game. I think there's as a person who's covered Minnesota State for as long as I have an appreciation for players who are older who found their way here, who found their way to Division I and carved out a career, because whether they're late bloomers, whether they're guys who just weren't in the right situation to have a look. Could be a guy like yourself. You mentioned earlier your teammate Cambo Psychos from Albert Lee. I think he's probably going to be a good example. Not every guy who's 25, 26 years old is going to be playing in the NHL the next year, where sometimes some of those 18-year-old draft picks, 19-year-old draft picks on other teams might be playing in the NHL next year. When you hear that, I mean, have you had discussions about that, or what? I figure I know what side you're on because of your age, but it is an interesting dynamic in college hockey.
It definitely is. And do I have the utmost respect for the 18-year-old who can come in and as a first-round draft pick and be an impact player in college hockey? 100%. Like, I look at some of these guys who are coming in. Do I respect the crap out of that Jimmy Snuggerud kid from the University of Minnesota? Absolutely.
You should.
No, I'm being dead serious.
No, I know.
That guy, phenomenal hockey player. But I also look at it as someone, and obviously we've talked about this. I've said it on the podcast before. Yeah. Like, at my age, I was at my age when I was his age currently, or maybe a year younger than him now. I was 5'7", 125 pounds. Like, I had zero opportunity to be in that spot. Combination of due to when I, matured, and a combination of my Crohn's disease. So for me, like, that's a touchy subject for me because, like, obviously junior hockey for me and allowing my body time to adjust to being diagnosed with Crohn's disease, putting on enough weight, putting on enough strength, and then understanding how to play the game almost in a different body, right? I put on 55, 60 pounds in a matter of a year and a half.
Wow.
And that's good weight too. So it's like, yes, like college hockey is a very unique breed like that, but I'm not going to say it frustrates me when people say that, but everything that we're doing, everyone else has the opportunity to do so. And I guess in a way, do we have to do that? Probably not. But I think results sometimes speak for themselves.
Sure. And those results also include you're getting your degree, you're getting your master's degree. From my standpoint, it seems like it's everything that the NCAA would stand for and want out of players.
Yeah.
Not to knock guys who are one and done or two and done, or guys who choose to leave early or get an opportunity to sign, whether they're a draft pick or a free agent. But just, it seems to, the more that, student athletes can be student athletes and with the student part included in that, I think that's good for athletics in general, whether it's hockey or anything else.
I agree.
So kudos to you and for what you've done in that department. I know we've talked about it in the past, but it's just I always just think it's a good conversation to have because fans are interested, and I think I think sometimes to really understand where that comes from, and it's not just a recruiting philosophy. It's a recognition of talent by coaches, people who recognize that someone might not be ready yet, but they might be ready in a year or two, and why not take a chance on that kid? And so be it if he's 21 years old when he comes in as a freshman. Because
Definitely.
otherwise, those opportunities might not be there, and you might just get your accounting degree and your and go on, which would be fine too. But you have a unique opportunity that you've taken advantage of.
Definitely, and the only thing I would say about that is, I might be wrong on this, but I believe last year I don't even think we were in the top 10 oldest teams in the country.
That's certainly possible.
So I think it's when people, like you said, on social media, the keyboard warriors are saying, Mankato, like, they're all, getting ready for their AARP card and all that stuff. Like I almost get a joke out of it because I've seen the stats and like, yes, are we on the older side of college hockey? 100%. Do we play a sustained pro style game for 3 periods and wear teams down and play structurally defensively and not have a lot of draft picks, but still find ways to win hockey games? Yes. So there's a fine line, right? Like, yeah, you can bring in 14 NHL draft picks and play run and gun, but the pro game, like, obviously, yes, we're more mature. Like, we're ready to play that pro game. We've committed to play that pro game by coming to Mankato. Like, that's one of our identities is playing that committed defensive style. And it seems to be working. So I think it probably is one of those things where it gets more recognition than maybe some other programs, because the past couple of years we've been on that stage where those things get highlighted. Every detail of a team gets highlighted, where even when we're not in the top, 5 or 10 oldest teams in the country, but somehow we're the ones getting picked on. I say that with a smile on my face.
So based on, related to that, somewhat related to you being back for your 5th year, is just kind of the makeup of this current team. And, one of the things that you're able to do by your return is kind of really help, shore up a defensive core that, lost some, pretty key players from last year, with Wyatt Ahmet graduating, Jack McNeely finishing his 5th year, and Benton Moss, who was here for 1 year as a grad transfer. But all 3 played, real important roles on this team with a really strong core of defensemen that also included you and obviously Jake Livingstone and Akito Hiroshi, who are both off to great starts to this season and such strong parts of your defense. Where do you feel like you fit in as far as like kind of getting that defensive core, to where you guys want it, because what you're getting out of yourself, what you're getting out of, Jake and Keto. But, now you're weaving in some guys who either have very little experience or no college experience going into the season.
Yeah, I was just, as you're adding that question, I hadn't really done it in my head, and I was just trying to do some quick math in my head, thinking about the amount of games played that left our team last year. So you figure Jack and Benton are both 5th-year guys as well. So they're playing minimum of probably 150 college games apiece.
Possibly, yeah.
And Wyatt's probably pushing 105, 110, 120. So, that's a lot of games to replace. And the guys who have stepped up as freshmen, underclassmen, or even guys who maybe haven't seen as much ice time, it's been, I would say as we're approaching, like, getting deeper and deeper in the season, our growth level from defensive partner communication, understanding, when we do this, we're going to, roll with this play, is really growing at an exponential rate. Even myself and Mason Wheeler today, we were talking and we got out a couple times nicely, breaking pucks out. And it was just kind of fun to have everyone be on the same page. Because obviously, myself, I'm playing with Mason Wheeler, a freshman, straight out of the USHL. And here I am, grandpa of the team, 5th-year guy who's been around and, like, kind of understands and to be on that same wavelength of games and trying to really help each other and work off each other's playing style. Obviously, I'm a very feet-first defenseman. I like to try and beat the first guy, and Mason's just a big, strong defensive defenseman who is not going to let anyone get past him. And, I think obviously with Akito and Jake being the ball players that they are, they've taken obviously another big step, and I think the rest of the D-corps, I hope myself included, will continue to keep making those steps because I think this team, coaches said it a million times, like without a D-corps, like to get pucks out, to prevent pucks from going in the back of the net, like it's hard to win hockey games. Yeah. And I think that's something that over my career here, we've had some big time defensive cores, and I think this is probably the youngest of D cores that we've ever had. Mm-hmm. But I think there's room for guys to take steps early and utilize that young soul and young mind of college hockey and really develop some confidence and become ball players for us, because it'll be huge to have 6-7 defensemen who can step up and play at any role come this weekend.
I can probably ask you this because this probably applies to you more than anybody else on the team other than the coaches, but is it weird for you to turn around on defense and not see number 29 in net? After 3.5 years, he hardly ever left it. So.
Yeah, it definitely, I don't want to say different. I think, between high school, juniors, AAA, whatever it may be, like you went through enough goalie changes. I mean, I remember my first year in Aberdeen, South Dakota, in the North American League. I think we had like 8 goalies. So to go from like 8 and then you get to college hockey and it's like, okay, I've played in front of, let's see, Matthias Israelson, mm-hmm. Dryden, Jacob Berger, Ryan Edquist, Dryden McKay.
Jackson Stauber.
Oh, one game, Jackson Stauber. You're right, in Alabama, Huntsville.
That's right.
You're right. Okay. So still, over 4 years, right. I've played in front of fewer goalies than I did in 1 year of junior hockey. Yeah. So, fun fact. But on the fact of Mr. McKay, obviously he was one of the best to do it of all time. I've said it before. But competition is good. Mm-hmm. And those 3 guys are battling their tail off every day to see who can, get between the pipes on Friday. And that's a good thing. Competition brings mm-hmm. out the best in a lot of people. And, I'm excited to see where those 3 can take us.
Yeah, I think a lot of fans are pretty happy for those guys, knowing, whether they admit it or not, or anyone else, that it's big skates to fill, difficult, position to be in with no experience, and to have the gauntlet of a schedule that you guys have to start the season, to see what Keenan Ranciere did against the Gophers, and he wasn't bad the first night, and certainly was really good the second, and then obviously Alex Tracy on both games against UMD. I think everybody who's a fan probably breathed a little bit of a sigh of relief, saying, "Okay, we're going to be okay."
Mm-hmm. And yes, that was the talk of the summer, right? Between our team, like, who's going to fill 29th spot? Well, Dryden McKay was obviously one of the best of all time, and his stats prove it, his records prove it, his awards prove it. But we have 3 very quality goaltenders who have proven themselves. We have 2 that have proven themselves at the collegiate level now, and 3 who have proven themselves over their junior mm-hmm. and midget careers. And, I think that on any given Friday, Saturday night, if we put any 3 of those in, I think all the guys in that locker room know that if we play the right way and play to our identity, that, we're going to have a really good chance of winning that hockey game. And so I think that's just the confidence that we have in them, and they should have within themselves, because obviously they're here for a reason. They've been here, our recruiting staff has seen Dryden McKay play, and, they had the wherewithal to then offer them college spots. So they should have that confidence with themselves, and I think everyone in this program does too. We see what they do in practice every day. They're just high quality goalies and high quality human beings as well.
Well, the challenge gets no easier this weekend for the goaltenders, for the defensive corps, for the team as a whole. You go up to St. Cloud State for 2 games up there at the National Hockey Center, and that should be another good test for you guys. Best of luck up there. Appreciate you coming on the podcast. And we'll be following that. I'll be following it from afar, but I know there's probably going to be a lot of people going up to St. Cloud this weekend for a pretty good couple of tilts between the Mavericks and the Huskies.
Yeah, it should be fun. We're looking forward to it for sure.
All right. Well, thank you, Andy. Thanks for being on. This has been the Maverick Hockey Live podcast presented by Duncan. I'm Shane Frederick. That's Andy Carroll. We'll see you next week.